So there's been a lot said about me online recently and about how things work with Steve and Nelk. So I'm going to be talking about that right now. No personal shots, just the facts. In 2019, Steve signed a deal with Nelk that clearly outlined how he would get paid for merch, brand deals, appearances, everything. So on Steve's personal merch, he received 70% of the net profits. Nelk's 30% was not pure profit. It covered the design, the production, the fulfillment, inventory, everything that it takes to make a successful merch drop. A 70% creator split while the company manages full operations is a very strong deal. So now let's talk about how much money Steve earned from Nelk. So I'm gonna pop up something here. It's a year-by-year breakdown of personal cash earnings for me and Steve. So you can see here from 2019 to 2023, how much I made and how much Steve made each year. Over that stretch, personally, I earned just under $3.5 million. Over that same stretch, Steve earned just over $12 million in cash. And these payments were just from Nelk. Steve also did outside third-party brand deals independently from Nelk. In our deal, there was a standard 15% management fee for Nelk on these outside deals, but I chose not to enforce that percentage on several major deals. On those deals, Steve kept the full 100% amount. So the reason I earned less than Steve during that time is pretty simple. The money had to stay in Nelk so we could keep shooting videos. Shooting these videos was not cheap. You have the production, the filmers, the editors, the travel, all that required real capital. When we were traveling through Europe with 15 people so we could shoot, edit, and upload a video every single week, the Airbnbs, the production, the travel, that stuff was not cheap. If the money didn't stay in the company, then these videos would not get made. So as the owner, it was my job and my priority to keep the money in the company and pay the people that made the content possible over taking more money personally. So let's talk about Steve's equity in Nelk. First of all, equity means ownership. It's not monthly pay. Equity becomes valuable as the company grows and eventually sells, goes public, or becomes extremely profitable. It's pretty much a long-term bet on the future of the company. I explained clearly what the equity meant to Steve, and I gave him 10% of the company, and he also chose to invest $500,000 for an additional 5%. At that time, nobody, including me, was taking extra owner payouts. The structure of the company didn't change because Steve became an owner. The money had to stay in the business if we wanted to pay the people that made the content possible so we could keep making videos. I explained to Steve that equity is long-term and it could pay off over time and it's not immediate cash flow. Over time, Steve made it clear that he preferred immediate cash over holding ownership for a potential long-term outcome. So we returned his $500,000 plus $50,000 in interest. Like I said earlier, there was a 15% management fee on Steve's outside deals to Nelk, and as Steve's business grew, he wanted full independence and no longer wanted to do any type of revenue sharing with Nelk. At his request, we agreed to that structure and he no longer held equity in Nelk. That meant that Nelk would no longer be able to collect 15% on his outside deals and he would no longer have equity in Nelk. The separation agreement formalized that, we both signed it, and today there are no revenue sharing between Nelk and Steve. Also for clarity, Steve was granted 15% of Happy Dad when we started the company, and he remains one of the largest shareholders today. And when Steve's channel was deleted, I had no control over that decision. I reached out to him immediately and he asked me for advice. I told him the fastest way back would be to handle it professionally, don't escalate things online, and he can stay in Nelk content while things cool off. Ultimately, he chose a different route. That was not my decision and I had no control over it. I thought that the ban could have lasted a lot shorter if it was handled a different way. Those are the facts. That's it, guys.